We're in commercial bargaining, so all the action happens over here. Please put your phones on silent and allow the process to happen right here. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming. And just the note, as always, we broadcast by Zoom, so our members can tune in and listen to what we've got going on. They're not part of caucus or sidebar. So today is for our instructional team, and we've prepared our packet of proposals. And I did send to you ahead of time kind of what we're going over. It's all primarily money items. There's a few non-money items. About 2 of them are in line with what we're working on the ESP contract, so they shouldn't be surprises. And then there are a couple of things that are new, but or they're outside of scope, but they're things that we've talked about in labor management, so they shouldn't be too much of a surprise. So what I'll do is I'll pass over the packet. These are all printed 2-side. I do have a single-side copy for you to match what I'm going through. And they're all collated. Hold on. All right. Sheet there. Yes. So you got it. Yeah. All right. So the cover is just our revised date once we get everything settled. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started with page 11. This is Article 2.9, student services, 2.9.4, 9.5, and 9.6. I don't know. Anita's here. All right. So this kind of came out of some discussions that our school psychologists have met with Danielle and some other folks. And it has to do with just making sure that our school psychologists are included at T-payroll. So I'll read through them and I'll do my best to answer questions that did come out of those discussions. So 2.9.4 already says in the case of student service vacancies that must be covered by existing staff providing coverage shall be entitled to extra pay at their current rate of hourly rate T-pay role. This, and then we're proposing to add, this includes school psychologists who are required to evaluate and write reports for parentally placed private school students after contract hours on school campuses when assigned by the school administrator. The new 2.9.5, student services personnel who are members of the district crisis intervention team will be paid T-payroll for the hours that they provide district consultation to schools in times of crisis. This may include individual or group counseling, classroom or large group and service presentations, consultation with faculty and administration, parent conferences, and agency referral. This T-payroll will be designated and approved by the supervisor of psychological services, CIT administrator. And then the last part for a new 2.9.6, student services personnel who wish to earn T-payroll can, with principal and or administrator approval, work on non-student days to complete evaluations, which includes report writing with parental agreement to bring a student to and from and for evaluations of parentally placed private school students. So this is just to try to be a little more encompassing of the work that a lot of our folks are actually doing to make sure they're included in T-payroll and be specific about, you know, it's approved and everybody's on the same page. I don't know if there's any questions or anything, but they can come later too.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Hopefully it's pretty explanatory. All right, page 14, this is a new section 2.12.5 and 2.12.6. I'm going to read through it, but just to be clear, this is about job share and halftime programs. And it's all written specifically for our school psychologists, but it's all mirroring the language that's already there for job share and T-pay. So you'll have some time to compare that, I'm sure, in caucus. But so the new 2.12.5, conditions of employment for halftime school psychologist candidates. The conditions of employment for participation in the halftime program shall be as follows. A, the period of assignment shall be half of the scheduled hours per week or per pay period for an aggregate half of the work week. Any deviation from this schedule must be approved in advance by the Division of Human Resources. B, the school psychologist personnel must be fully certified to provide the services. C, Human Resources and the School Psychology Department will make half-time positions available based upon school vacancies and need of coverage for schools. And D, school psychologists will be granted long-term leaves with permission of the Division of Human Resources. And then the new 2.12.6, computation of salary for school psychologists half-time participants. The period of services for purposes of this program shall be the regular work year for the position. Payment and, I should say, benefits, bennies, for this period of employment shall be computed as follows, using a 205-day calendar as an example. A, payment shall equal 50% of the individual salary based on degree and experience for 205 days and 100% of the individual salary for 11 non-pupil days. B, in addition to the above salary amounts, the teacher shall also, it should be school psychologists, they were trying to mirror that language, shall also receive 1 sick leave computed at the rate of 4 hours per month on each month worked, and 2 6.5 days, 24 hours of personal leave charged the accumulated sick leave per year. C, half-time program participants may elect board-provided single employee coverage subject to the board's cap on contributions. If this option is elected, the premium shall be 1/2 of the school psychologist's typical single employee medical coverage. D, non-optional employee benefits, Social Security, Medicare, retirement, workers' comp, unemployment compensation, and life insurance shall be based upon the reduced salary. Negotiated time off benefits, sick leave, vacation, paid holidays will accrue on a pro rata 50% basis based upon the reduced salary. And E, assignments will constitute for salary purposes more than 1/2 of the school year, thus entitling the participant 1 year of service on the salary schedule and credit for non-probationary purposes. So it's all it's mirroring what we already have for that, for what we generally have, but this is just specific to our school psychologists. All right, page 17, this has to do with comp time. We're not intending to change, anything about comp time as far as, how it's used and that sort of thing. We just wanted to add a little bit of clarity that currently the language says administrators shall grant compensatory time for duties assigned beyond the normal workday, or when planning is missed for student necessities, such as administering or proctoring tests or supervising students, and our clarifying language is equivalent to the time of the duties assigned in our planning time lost. So we didn't want it to be limited to, we can only cap it at so much, or and just be specific, because I know we've done a lot of work with comp time to make sure that we're actually assigning comp time for actual duties, and not just piling on comp time when it isn't actually work done. And the rest of the language is to remain the same. Okay. All right, page 18. This is in voluntary activities 3.6.2, and this shouldn't be too much of a surprise. This is just mirroring the proposal that we have for ESP. So 3.6.2 already says faculty attendance at each school's annual open house, and we're proposing including and/or student parent engagement events when occurring beyond the regularly scheduled paid workday is voluntary. However, the parties recognize the importance of these activities to the school community, and then therefore we wanted to clarify instructional employees, not just teachers, who attend open house, and then also add or other student parent engagement activities beyond the regularly scheduled workday will be granted compensatory time for all hours spent at the event. So again, just trying to align this with what we kind of, I think we did half of the work on this with our ESPs, and just putting that on the table there. All right, 19, page 19, section 3.9, this has to do with special service classes. This is a language piece, and we've talked about this in labor management. It has to do with our library media specialists. And I'll read what the new language is. 3.9.3, library media specialists shall not be required to teach classes on the special services schedule. We've talked about this. We have some cases where it appears that our media specialists are being put on a regularly scheduled special services assignment. And so it's not to diminish that they do media classes and bring in students, but not on a special service schedule.
So just for my clarity, not that they're being asked to cover the specials, but they're actually teaching it as a library services class on the rotation.
Correct. That's my understanding.
Yeah, we're finding that, most in elementary schools, they're given a specials class without FTE, and their job is pretty comprehensive, and they're not able to do that job if they're teaching classes all day. And quite frankly, we think it takes away from the other specials teachers, the music, the art, the PE, that we should have at those sites. So we want to take a better look at that.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's. Yes.
Yeah.
That is happening, yes.
Yeah. So we've been trying to work on it and have those conversations. But yeah, so this is just to kind of add that clarity. If and when we get it resolved, that it's clear for everyone else. All right, now we're moving into Article 4. This whole section 4.3 deals with teacher protection and authority, removal of students. And we've had long conversations about this over the past several years, you know, student behavior and disruption in class, you know, violent behavior of students and how that impacts not only the classroom and the students in the learning environment, but also our employees. And, you know, per the statute, we have very comprehensive and good language here that talks about that process. But we still find a lot of challenges that our members bring to us with actually, you know, kind of finding a conclusion in a situation where a student has really negatively impacted an individual or a group. So our proposal here is not to, you know, do too much of a deep dive into the language, but rather propose a form to help with documentation. It's included behind the page that should be in your packet, but I'll just read specifically 4.3.7, 3.8, and 3.9. So what we're proposing here is utilizing the notice of intent to remove form, which would be in a new Appendix E. A teacher may have a student removed from class, and all the rest of this language is already there, may have a student removed from class who has been documented by the teacher to have repeatedly interfered with the student's ability to teach, or may immediately remove a student whose behavior the teacher determines is so unruly, disruptive, or abusive that it seriously interferes with the teacher's ability to communicate effectively or with the ability of the student classmates to learn. 4.3.8, the principal may not return the student to that teacher's class without the teacher's consent unless the placement review committee determines that such placement is the best or only available alternative. In such an instance, the review committee must provide a written rationale. Our proposal here is to include using the notice of intent to remove form, appendix, that should be E, for its decision, and the principal must specify specific supports the school will provide to manage the student's behavior prior to returning to class. And 4.3.9, the teacher and the placement review committee must render its decision within 5 work days of the removal of the student from the classroom and utilize the notice of intent to remove form appendix E to record their decision to be provided to the teacher and principal. So the form that's here it's a starting point, and we're, you know, this is something that we developed internally to try to help just kind of track this with our members. It's not an approved form, and we're open to, again, we have this as just a draft, and we can share this with you to maybe look for some ways to clarify it. But to have a form that everybody understands, so things are, you know, the teacher information is documented, the student information, and they can explain, you know, have that documentation there. And I wouldn't think that this would be the only documentation. It wouldn't just be, oh, I fill out this form and that means I've documented all of behavior. But there's an explanation here with their supporting documentation that may have been happening over time. Then there's a place for the placement review committee to include its decision and then have all those people documented. So again, this is a starting point, and we think it will be helpful because we're finding situations, especially when it relates to ESE students, and that trying to really get to the heart of the behavior is so unruly and violent that even though it may be a manifestation of a disability or an issue with a student, it still is leading to violence or situations in the classroom. And this is something that we've done a lot of training out of this building. We even did, I think it was it in pre-planning when we went and actually met with, I think it was elementary principals. Remember that last year? I can't remember if it was pre-planning, but even the principals were, how can we come together to address this? So this is a starting point.
Yeah, I think it was at one of the principal meetings.
Oh, it was a principal meeting, yeah. So I will make a note to share. This is just a copy, but I'll make a note to share that as a Word document with you if there's any.
can make edits.
Yeah. Okay, now we're moving into Article 12. 12.25. This should be a familiar proposal. We've proposed it in the past and hoping to maybe make some gains with it. This is a new piece about annual payment for accumulated sick leave. 12.25.1, all new language. An employee may receive an annual payment for sick leave that is earned during an individual school year and is unused at the end of the school year. The payment shall be based on the daily rate of pay of the employee multiplied by 80%. Days for which such payment is received shall be deducted from the accumulated leave balance. This is statutory. Florida statute 1012.62A3 allows for a school board to implement a policy that allows this with that cap at 80%. And we've talked about this last year and just trying to create a way that if an employee has accumulated leave that they've not used, that they have that option to pay it out. And again, it's at 80%, wouldn't be at their max 100%. And we know a lot of employees may not do this because they want to actually get the full amount when they retire, but there's an option there to help folks. And it's not any additional sick, it's already sick that they're accruing or earning within there that's already contractual. All right, now we're into section 1310 on page 55. This has to do with our insurance committee. And this is the same language we proposed for the ESPs. Now that the board has, did we miss one for you? Maybe extra, you got extra blank pages in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, page 55. Yeah, so it's same language we proposed for the ESP because the board has approved going to self-funded for insurance. We've traditionally been fully insured, so our insurance committee meets about once a year to kind of review and look at things. So this is language to kind of to add some more explanation and expectations for our insurance committee. We just talked about this recently, the desire, I think we're all on the same page that this committee needs to meet monthly now because we will have more insight and say in what we're doing and really needing to review how the plan is doing each month. And again, being clear that we're not as individuals approving claims or looking at individuals. So I'll kind of walk through this. 13.10, the language already says that the board and the association recognize the importance of maintaining and balancing quality health and other insurance for employees. Towards these ends, a joint insurance committee will be established, and we wanted to add comprised of representatives from HCTA, HSCF, HASA, retirees, and the school board, and keeping the rest of the language for the purpose of putting forth recommendations that shall be subject to negotiations. So this language is still there. We're just kind of clarifying who is part of that committee. 13.10.2, no changes there. And then we propose including a new 13.10.3 that says the school board will become the administrator for the self-funded health care program effective January 1, 2026. While this program is in effect, the following duties shall apply to the insurance committee. A, the district insurance committee will meet monthly to review all relevant information and data that may impact the status and viability of remaining self-funded in the future years and make recommendations to the program to ensure financial stability and positive impacts to employees. B, the insurance committee will regularly review and ensure checks and balances are put into place to determine the financial viability of remaining self-funded. An independent actuarial analysis will be performed annually to assure financial viability, which shall be provided to the insurance committee. So the insurance committee is not doing the actuarial study, but it's provided so that we can review that, which is done already, but this would just allow for the committee to look at that more in depth. C, in the event that self-funding is no longer financially advantageous to the school board and its employees, the district insurance committee will meet to make recommendations regarding continuing to self-fund the healthcare program or returning to a fully insured financial arrangement for a healthcare program. And lastly, D, the school board will establish an internal services fund, not within the unassigned fund balance reserve, to protect the funds that are contributed to the self-funded healthcare program by the school board and participating members. The insurance committee will review the tracking of premiums collected and claims paid. So all of this is to just be a little more clear about what that committee is doing. And I'll just be clear that this language is examples from other districts that have been self-funded or are self-funded currently. And so, this was not let's just make it up as we go, but we did try to look at other districts around the state that have this language. And mirrors what we proposed for the ESPs. All right, now we're on to Article 17, specifically 17.3.7 on page 60. Oh, did I miss the page? Sorry, yes, sorry. I was like, wait, this is not in order. Sorry, 14.3, terminal pay. We know that this kind of came across in ESP bargaining, so we are also wanted to address it here. It's tied to money in a way, but also it's an issue that we're dealing with some of our employees, specifically in reference to our employees that are under the FRS investment. So currently the language says in 14.3.1, in order to encourage and reward teachers who exercise particular care in the maintenance of their personal health and job attendance, the board will provide terminal pay to teachers upon termination of employment, at retirement, or to their beneficiaries if service is terminated by death. And we're proposing adding some clarity here that for the purposes of terminal pay, an employee must meet any one of the following requirements. First, an employee who is no younger than age 59 and a half with at least 6 years of FRS service, an employee who has 30 years of FRS service at any age, an employee who is considered retired according to 17.3.7, and 17.3.7 is on the next page. And then the language continues and remains, all terminal pay shall be paid in the months following retirement, but not more than 2 pay cycles following the employee's last duty check. And then it goes on to talk about what terminal pay shall be. So we're not trying to propose that any changes there. We just want to be clear on who's eligible for this. So when we look at 17.3.7 on the next page, effective July 1, 2023, all Florida retirement system and out-of-state public school system retirees newly hired or rehired after retirement will be eligible for all verifiable public, private, and charter school years of effective teaching experience. Our proposal is to strike up to a maximum of 15 years of experience credit upon rehire. Our goal is to give our folks all credit. There are surrounding counties that do this. I know Pasco does it, and our folks, our salary schedule, we've done a lot of work to improve the top of the salary schedule for veterans, and that's a deciding factor when folks are, have experience and they're thinking, hey, am I going to be placed on step 15 in Hillsborough? Can I go to Pasco and earn more? Although maybe I'd come to Hillsborough because I could get more pay. And then this last sentence, this is all remaining the same, a newly rehired teacher to HCPS who has taken a distribution through an investment plan offered through the FRS or any other state system is considered a retiree. So this is the connection to the previous language about who's eligible for terminal pay. And just to be clear, we have instances where what we traditionally think about retirement being 59 and a half or having your 30 years in, retired, you're eligible for terminal pay, come back, and currently the way the language is, you're limited to step 15, even if you have more years. We have come across cases where we have employees that have fallen under this last sentence of 17.3.7 who are part of the investment plan and they don't take a distribution, they roll their retirement into another plan. So in kind of the traditional thinking of retirement, they're not retired, they haven't taken a distribution, they've not taken a penalty in that way, but we're considering them retired. So then what happens is, but they're not eligible for terminal pay. So they are being kept at step 15. They're not given their years of experience, but then they're not eligible for terminal pay. So they're getting, I guess, negatively impacted in 2 ways. So, and we have some grievance work on this, but we're trying to resolve this where, it's one or the other. Are they retired or are they not? And if they're retired, and then they should be eligible for terminal pay and held to the same standards of a retiree. If they're not eligible for terminal pay, then they're not a retiree, so they should be given their years of experience.
Yeah, this one's really nuanced because it's kind of where the FRS and the investment plan kind of come together in a bad way. And to Britt's point, it becomes double indemnity for some of these employees that are trying to not necessarily retire, but do the right thing by their financial future. And they're kind of getting dinged. I hate to use that word.
Yeah.
They're getting hurt by that. We're trying to kind of correct that.
Yeah.
Maria had a question?
No, I was just trying to remember prior to 2023, we were at 7, right?
Yeah, I think it started at 5 and then it moved to 7 and I think it moved to 10 and then we're at 15. So we're just trying to make gains there to give folks all their experience. All right, now we are into Article 18 compensation, specifically 18.1.2. And this has to do with our extended year and extended learning program pay. So salary for any instructional employee, that's what we're adding, hired for summer staffing, the extended year and extended learning program shall be paid at a fixed rate. We're proposing striking 27 per hour and proposing having that fixed rate be equivalent to no higher than step E15 on the instructional salary schedule P, or a higher amount based on grant funding mutually agreed to by the parties for the number of hours assigned and work for these programs. So, and then adding another sentence here that salary for any student services employee hired for the summer staffing ESY and ELP shall be paid at a fixed rate equivalent to, that should also be no higher than step E15 on the student services, or theirs would be just 15, not E, sorry, on the student services student 10. So it's based on the 10-month 198 scale.
Take step 0 and no higher than 15.
Yeah, so what, ideally in the past, we've made this proposal where it's the employees paid at their rate of pay. And, we were trying to land on what does that look like with the varied experience of folks that, maybe at the top of the scale, we keep them at 0. So our thought here was to limit it to step 15. So if you are currently on step 14, you'd be at 14. If you're on 15, 15. But if you're on step 25, you'd be limited to step 15.
What is that? Do you know?
Currently, off the top of my head, currently step 15 is $37.4975. That is on that's schedule E, and then the student services on their
This is supposed to be even, right?
Yeah, the first
Okay.
one for instructional, and then that last one, sorry, was supposed to be step 15 on the student services 10, which is based on the 198 master's degree, and their step 15 is $40.4657. But we do have proposals for those new schedules, so it would be based on our proposal and what we agree on. But that's what it is currently.
Current schedule. All right.
Yes, current schedule.
Just
The numbers that I gave you.
yes.
All right, now we get into supplements. This is 20.1.3 on page 64. Group 2 supplements. We're proposing 2 new supplements here. One is kind of new in its title, but we'll get a little more into what that means. But currently, our group 2 supplemented positions include a number of positions: yearbook, newspaper, majorette, drama director, middle school team leader, elementary team leader, and elementary safety patrol coordinator. We're proposing that we include the bilingual interpretation and translation service supplement, which we did propose this for the ESPs, and we'll get into that later and what that looks like with some of the same parameters. We also want to include the ESE team leader, and we put ESE contact, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like. But really our proposal will be to have the ESE team leader just really become the ESE contact. And we'll talk more about why we're there, but we have issues where maybe there's not actually an ESE team leader at a site, primarily in elementary, and then this ESE contact becomes that person because there's no ESE specialist. And but we'll get in more to that, but this is just where the language is. All right, now we are on to page 68. We have a number of new proposals here related to our national board. And this is a new 22.4.5. And this came out of the National Board Caucus. And I'm going to do my best. There's a lot of commentary here on the side to kind of like talk about why they're here. But first, 22.4.5, an instructional employee who is initially certified as a National Board Certified teacher shall receive a salary supplement equal to the master's level advanced degree supplement during the school year in which they provide their initial certification documents. So when we've got a brand new National Board Certified teacher, our proposal is that they get the master's degree supplement for that first year. 22.4.6, An instructional employee who is also a national board certified teacher who earns their maintenance of certification shall receive a salary supplement equal to the specialist level advanced degree supplement during the school year in which they provided their maintenance certification documents. So if they have those documents, then they would get the specialist supplement. 22.4.7, and I'm just going to point out that this is right now it says national board certified teachers, our proposal is who teach in any school shall receive an additional salary differential of 5,000. And I'll point out down at the bottom, what we're proposing here is that 22.4.8 currently is stricken, where that is where our national board certified teachers who teach in Renaissance schools only shall receive the additional salary differential of 4,500. What we're proposing here is that all of our national board certified teachers, regardless of school, are eligible for this supplement of 5,000. 22.4.8 is a new one to encourage participation in professional learning as a board certified candidate. An instructional employee who continues employment in HCPS after completing their first year shall earn a national board certification component fee reimbursement of $475 and shall continue to receive the reimbursement for a total of 3 years, one for each component completed upon providing proof of completion. And this is to help, maintain and pay for their continuing education to maintain their certification. And then a new 22.4.9 to encourage the maintenance of certification participation. An instructional employee who continues to participate in professional learning for the national board certification shall receive a fee reimbursement of $495 annually upon providing proof of completion of annual maintenance courses. So I think, for a long time, this district has honored national board. And I think over time, we've seen the number of those kind of decline, and we want to really promote this. There's a lot of research that shows the importance of these folks in our schools. So these are our proposals there, and I'm sure, we can get some more information to you on that, but there's some notes there to talk about the importance of that.
You know how many hold it right now?
I don't know. I don't know how many
Do you have an idea how many?
national board we have.
About 150.
150.
Currently, we were the height well over 900, second only to the state of North Carolina.
Yeah. So that's a pretty significant decline, and again, we would like to honor them and reward that and try to encourage more participation. So this is a starting point on how to honor that and encourage that participation. We do a lot of work out of this building through our CTEC Ed program, Renos, and helping those folks get started and continue their engagement. So we have a vested interest in that program staying and growing. All right. Just a renumbering there on the next one about the national board certified teachers receive a mentoring bonus, which is in our compensation proposal later. So that no change there. And then we just wanted to add some clarity here for this new 22.4.11 to be eligible for these awards, all of these that and we could even specify what awards specifically, but it is for a teacher receiving the national board, I think that's NPT, I think that's national board, I forget what that stands for now, I just read it prior, but anyway, receiving their certification must have an effective evaluation. So, striking the will be disqualified from this award if at any time they receive an overall unsatisfactory evaluation. But, to be eligible, like we do with a lot of these, you've got to be effective or higher. Now we get to 22.4.12. This is having to do with Renaissance pay. We know that this has been now excluded from our Transformation Network MOU. So what we're proposing here is updating this language that only for the 25-26 school year highly qualified teachers as defined by state and federal statute who teach in Renaissance schools shall be eligible for a salary differential, and eligibility shall be determined by an effective or higher evaluation rating and certification for assignment. The flat amount of the differential pay will be determined annually based on available funds, and the differential for the 25-26 school year shall be as followed. Instructional employees with 0 to 1 years of experience, $1,000. $1,000. Instructional employees with 2 to 10 years of experience, $2,300. And instructional employees with 11 or more years of experience, $3,600. And our eligible paraprofessional employees, $750, which we made this proposal in the ESP. And the remainder of the language is staying the same there. So This is not an increase to what we've been doing the last several years, but it's to maintain this supplement for our Renaissance schools. All right, now we're moving on to a new article. This would be a standalone article, and you can let me know if you want me to read through all of this, but what this is it's the same proposal that is on the table for the ESP contract. The instructional contract does not include any language about a drug and alcohol-free workplace and substance abuse in the contract. I know that we follow what we do for our ESPs and district-wide, but our proposal is to include what we have in the ESP contract here. Again, most of it is what we already have, and it is including the clarifications and some of the things that we talked about that are important for the ESP. So it is the exact same proposal. For the sake of time, I can move on, but it's all there. And I think just some of the things that I would point out just to be of most importance have to do with which we've talked about. We talked about the ESPs, but also specifically with instructional, where this came out of is dealing with the random drug testing for those that have been previously disciplined or had an issue, that it is not a continuing, indefinite random testing, that it's limited. And then, of course, the language that is dealing with audio video recordings and in this investigator's vehicle is all a very important piece because that's all new. And while a management right, our position on that just here, as it just is with the ESPs, that because it's a new decision and it impacts terms and conditions of employment, that's a mandatory subject to bargaining, and we hope you'll engage us on this language. All right, so that's it for the language. The next part, there's a few pieces that will start getting into money as well as some MOUs. So I think next in your packet is salary schedules. And our proposal here for the Schedule A and B, you'll see in our whole packet, we go through all of the languages to keep these salary schedules the same. At this point, there's only 15 people left on these schedules. So, you'll see in our proposal what that means, but I know. I think last year we were at 50 and now we're down to 15. So slowly but surely our folks are moving to the higher pay on the other schedules. I will just continue with our supplements here. Some of them are referenced in the language, so we'll move into this, and this is in our appendix. So just updating the 25-26 annual instructional supplements. Our proposal here for our advanced degree supplements, I should have corrected those dates there too. That should be 24-25 for advanced degree supplements. Our proposals here are to increase these supplements. Currently, the master's degree supplement is 1,000. Our proposal is to increase it to 2,000. The specialist degree is currently 2,000. Our proposal is to increase it to 4,000. The doctorate degree supplement is currently 3,000, and our proposal is to increase it to 6,000. When we get to the cost analysis, I was not able to cost this out because I haven't seen the list of how many people actually have that right now. If you get it, when you guys determine it, to share it that way. But I just wanted to be upfront that I couldn't run it because I don't know who has it right now. And then the language, all the same there, effective July 1, 2024, about who's eligible for that. When we get into the sponsorship supplements, just updating the date there. We do have a proposal here for a yearbook. Currently, yearbook supplement is only available to secondary, and we would really like to include our elementary folks. We have covered this a lot over the last couple of years where there's sometimes some miscommunication because it just says yearbook. And I think over time this has evolved in that language, but a lot of our elementary folks are doing this anyway. They think they're eligible and then they find out, oh no, I'm not. And sometimes we run into situations where an administrator has said, yeah, you're gonna get it. And then, maybe they can't get it. And then we've worked together to make sure folks get paid, but we know there's a need there. And in some cases, some elementary teachers are not doing it because their PTA takes on the task. So, that's fine. But if we do have an elementary teacher that is taking on that job fully, that they should be eligible for the supplement as well. No change to the supplement, but just including those folks. On the next page, page 95, continuing with special assignment supplements, you can see about 4 down. This is where we would include the bilingual interpretation and translation services supplement for $750, which is what we've proposed for the ESPs as well. And just like that those bargaining units, our instructional employees oftentimes will have an employee that is brought in to support translation and interpretation in interviews or, things outside of the scope of their regular duties. There is a little footnote here at the bottom about eligibility for this. To be eligible for the interpretation translation services supplement, an employee must provide proof of degree or certification indicating bilingual capabilities, or a passing score on a district approved bilingual proficiency test assessment. And we did add some clarity that this must be a nationally or internationally recognized test, or documentation of bilingual capabilities with verification from a site administrator. So kind of 3 ways to get around this. And again, it's a starting point on how we can verify ability. And then the last sentence here is, additionally, the employee must be designated by their supervisor or administrator to provide interpretation and or translation services beyond the typical scope of their position. So it's got to be an agreement. So both the employee knows that, yeah, this is what I'm doing to support my school and administration. And the administrator says, yes, you are the person that's going to do this. Again, it kind of goes back to our yearbook issue too, where we got folks that are doing it and then, ooh, there's no supplement attached. So we wanted to be clear on that. Now back to about midway down to our ESC, which currently the ESC team leader, this is where we want to either include or just fully change this to ESC contact leader or ESC contact supplement. And I'll try to get through all this, and I've got some information to share with you, but we kind of put some notes here in the margins too that our HCTA members formed an ESC committee, and they want to address paying ESC contacts the ESC team lead supplement. The supplement of $848.71 does not fairly compensate for all the functional duties and responsibilities assigned to the role. And when there is not an ESC specialist, this happens at our elementary schools, an ESC contact is still designated. And there is not an ESC team lead job description, yet functionally the ESC contact fulfills both roles of an elementary team leader for VE teachers and an ESC specialist, but is only paid the equivalent of a general elementary team lead. And so we put together a little packet here for you. I only made one. And in there this came directly from our committee, so I commend them on the work that they put together for you to describe the problem as I just kind of summarized. And kind of some facts around this, that the district designates an ESC contact at a site that does not have the ESC specialist. And some kind of going back with Shannon Lesperance on this, where she said, an ESC contact is supplemented for anyone who passes the screening. And there are 2 different job descriptions, one for ESC specialist supplement and one for ESC team leader supplement. And a contact is a team leader. Currently, the ESC team leader and the elementary team lead supplements are both paid at $848.71 annually, but actually the district has no job description for the ESC team lead supplement, only for the elementary team lead and ESC specialist. So I think it gets a little confusing there on those actual job descriptions. So functionally, the ESC contact fulfills both the roles of the elementary team leader for VE teachers, a VE teacher, and identical duties of an ESC specialist, but is only paid the equivalent of a general education elementary team lead. So in other words, the ESC contact becomes a hybrid of both of these roles. And so the remedy here, and they have actually given a rationale for how they came up with this amount, that what they'd like to see is a new ESC contact supplement and job description to replace the ESC team lead supplement that fully accounts for and compensates for all the responsibilities. So it's a hybrid of the ESC team lead and the ESC specialist. And the way they came up with this $2,379.52 is that the ESC team lead currently is $848.71, and they calculated 2/3 of the ESC specialist supplement at $1,530 to come up to a total of $2,379. So in your packet on the back, yeah. And then on the back of that document is actually, they pulled together their ESC contact duties and responsibilities. And I'm not going to read all of it, but they did put together a rationale for all the things that they do. And then we did include a copy of the job descriptions that encompass by the ESC team leader. And the ESC specialists, I believe, are in here for you. So that's all there to review. Yeah. So those are the 3 job descriptions that kind of encompass it all. So that's the rationale and reason that we targeted that particular supplement. Okay, moving on. All the rest of the supplements, no other changes there for any of the next pages other than just updating the dates. The rest of your packet includes just updates to Appendix D, which are MOUs. I'm not gonna read through them all, but we have some expired MOUs that would be removed, and then our proposal to include the transformation, the updated transformation network MOU, the instructional MOU for the millage, and also a MOU for the transfer and open hire timeline for 25-26. So those 3 MOUs would just replace the expiring MOUs, not renegotiating them. We're not proposing any changes to those MOUs, just including them there. Handy to have them in the back of the contract. All right. Now we're going to move on to what everybody came for, right? Compensation. Okay. So first, I will start with a copy of our actual compensation agreement, and then I'll get into costing and salary schedule. From there, they're collated for you. Like we need to have the welcome to the main event.
Can I say something before we get
Yes,
to the main event?
please do.
And hey, everyone's gonna be happy to know I'm not gonna mention anything about fund balance today. Okay? Not mentioning the fund balance. But you know, years ago, when we first got the class size amendment in Florida, I remember then talking to then superintendent around the idea that we have these close class size amendment numbers, and I taught middle school, so it was Superintendent Elia, and we have, what was it, 25 kids, 22 kids in middle school English. And I taught 8th grade forever, and I told her, I said, hey, I would take double the kids for a 50% raise. Double the kids for a 50% raise. And she was interested in how I would do that, and I really needed more physical space than I needed anything to make that happen. And she couldn't do that because obviously we were being held very tightly to that class size. Well, over the years, that's gotten watered down. But I could argue that every employee in the district is dealing with something that would be similar to that. Whether it's more kids, more duties, more coverage of classes and other things, but they've not seen the real increase to their salary. Really because of the state that we're in and because of the conditions of the world and you know, the way things have gone. So what we're going to present to you today in terms of money is an ask for you guys to recognize that challenge. Also recognizing that I believe we have the highest school grades that we've ever had in Hillsborough County because of the great work that the employees are doing despite all these conditions. So there's a couple things that might seem like a little bit of a reach, but I'm going to ask you to kind of pause that thought and think about the work that's been done in the past year by all of these employees and the challenges that they've been enduring, not only last year, but over the past few years, certainly since the pandemic, and take a look at those things. So, for example, when you guys budget X amount of dollars for instructional, and then we don't hire, we don't have that number of employees, we come in under budget every year for the amount of money that the district is budgeting for salaries. And we understand that you want to be under budget. But what we're saying is that when that money is budgeted already for employees to do the work, they've already done it. And so we're looking for creative ways to make sure that you're recognizing that. So specifically when we get to number 4, I know is one that is a curious item, but we'll get to all of them. And I just want you to recognize all of that great work that they've been doing and how hard it's been. I think that teaching is more difficult now than ever in the history of it. And yet we're doing more with less in this district. And whenever possible, we need to show them the monetary respect that we could possibly give them. And that's what we're always looking for here at the table. And we appreciate your collaboration and your willingness to look at what we're going to show you here today. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so I will just start with the cover page here of the economic agreement for 25-26. And this agreement, which I know you'll agree to today, right? This agreement is made on this 15th day of July 2025 by and between Hillsborough County Public Schools, HCPS or the district, and the Hillsborough Classroom Teachers Association, HCTA or the union, representing the instructional bargaining unit, here collectively referred to as the parties. So the parties mutually agreed to the following. Number one, effective July 1, 2025, all instructional salary schedules agreed upon shall be updated and included in Appendix A of the collective bargaining agreement. And we'll get to those salary schedules. This is just pointing to the salary schedules. And we have proposals there to improve those. Number two, effective July 1, 2025, employees in the instructional bargaining unit shall be credited with 1 year of experience and shall advance one step on their respective salary schedules accordingly. Eligible employees must have worked half a year plus a day and have an effective evaluation for the 24-25 school year. This is our typical step movement language with all the same parameters and eligibility that we've had for the past 2 years. Number three, effective July 1, 2025, employees at the top of their respective salary schedule will receive a one-time top step payment of $3,000 as an additional payment to employee base pay. The payment will be made no later than the end of the first semester. Eligible employees must have worked half a year plus a day and have an effective evaluation for the 24-25 school year. And I just want to note the good work we've done for our top level and veteran employees. 2 years ago, we were able to negotiate over a $4,000. They received over $4,500 by adding 2 steps to that top level, and that was good work by the school board, your team, and our team. And then last year, we were able to add more to that salary schedule at the top, as well as honoring those veterans with a $2,000 longevity supplement. So I just want to point that out because I think that that's important to note. Number 4, all instructional unit employees shall receive a $1,500 one-time additional payment for the 25-26 school year to be paid in the first semester paycheck, which is August 8th, 2025. Should this pay date have to change, HCTA and HCPS will reconvene to determine the date of payment. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay, and eligible employees must be current active employees at the time of the payment. And this is mirroring what we just did in the last school year, where we made a one-time $1,500 payment on that short paycheck.
And again, this was a legitimate game changer for the employees in our district. The support employees, the instructional employees coming back, getting an actual paycheck in those, before they would normally just get 1 day. We hear about it all the time. I'm sure that you guys do, how important that was. And think about how much goodwill that built. It built a year where we had record high school grades. Just pointing that out.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, it is true that, of our public schools, we pulled all of our schools, no DRFs, which is awesome. All right, moving on to number 5, effective July 1, 2025, eligible employees who are licensed school psychologists, licensed psychologists, nationally certified school psychologists, licensed mental health counselors, licensed SLPs, licensed audiologists, licensed school social workers, licensed mental health clinicians, licensed OT PTs, or certified behavior analysts will be paid a one-time $1,000 additional payment to be paid at the conclusion of the 25-26 school year. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. Eligible employees must have worked half plus a day for the 24-25 school year and be current active employees at the time of payment. So this is just continuing a payment that we already have. We did add a few like our licensed mental health counselors and a few additional folks to make sure we're all inclusive. Number 6, effective July 1, 2025, eligible SLPs who hold their ASHA CCCs, that is their American Speech Language Hearing Association Certificate of Clinical Competency, shall be paid a one-time additional payment of, that should be $2,500 to be paid at the conclusion of the 25-26 school year. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. Eligible employees must have worked half plus a day of the 25-26 school year and be current active employees at the time of payment. So this is also continuing the CCCs with a adjustment and increase to that. Number 7, ESE instructional employees, which the list of job codes is attached. No change to that list, which is on the 3rd page. But we are proposing including gifted teachers with those 3 job codes, 10657, 10658, and 10659. We already include school psychologists and instructional employees assigned in our exceptional centers will receive an additional payment for ESE retention. That should be up $3,000. Number that's in the parentheses is right. 3,005 should be just 3,000. To be paid at the conclusion of the 25-26 school year. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. Eligible employees must be current active employees at the time of the payment. Number 8, effective July 1, 2025, employees at our exceptional centers will be included in the transformation network list of schools and be eligible for the supplement as defined in the 25-26 transformation network MOU. So I just want to bring some attention to this particular one. This is a new piece on our proposal. Part of our ESE committee that met included a group of our folks from our ESE centers. And I think there's some important acknowledgement of the work that they do with some of our most fragile, whether it's medically or through disability, the work that they do to give them a standalone supplement. And our rationale for including them in the transformation network is a lot of the students that are at some of these centers are actually zoned for transformation schools, but they end up at our centers. So that was our rationale there, was to encompass those, our centers, which are Caminetti, Carver, Dorothy Thomas, Eisenhower, Lavoie, Lopez, Willis, Peters, and Simmons. So that's our rationale there, so that they would be eligible for that $5,000 supplement. I believe when I looked at it today, there's about 100, just a little over 100, maybe 110 employees at those sites.
7 sites.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, yeah. And I think our list was pulled probably in June, you know, but when we get to our calculation class, we can base it on 109 employees for $5,000.
Their enrollment stays.
Yeah. All right, on to number 9. This is a new piece that came from our school psychologist. Effective July 1, 2025, school psychologists will be eligible for a $5,000 school psychologist critical shortage supplement for the 25-26 school year to be paid in the first semester paycheck, August 8th, 2025. And we can actually look at that date when I said paid in the first semester paycheck. Yeah, I think that's the correct date. Should this payment date have to change, HCTA and HCPS will reconvene to determine the date of payment. This payment is supplement to employee-based pay, and FRS eligible employees must be current active employees at the time of payment. Number 10, this is encompassing some of our national board, and I put a note here about the section. So in accordance with section 22.4.10, that is based on the update, like the proposal we just did. So I just wanted to highlight that it's updated, that we would need to address that if depending on what we agreed to in the language. So in accordance with section 22.4.10 for the 25-26 school year, eligible national board certified teachers shall receive up to a one-time $1,000 additional payment for the completion of 10 hours of approved mentoring and or conducting approved training through the professional learning department, and the payment shall be made after submission and approval of all required documentation. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. Eligible employees must be current active employees at the time of payment. So this is just continuing what we've done. It's the same language. I just put a little note there, depending on what we agreed to in the language, that article could change. And then the same with number 11. This mirrors the proposal and language that we just went over. In accordance with section 22.4.7, national board certified teachers shall be paid a one-time $5,000 additional payment to be paid no later than the conclusion of that should be the 25-26 school year. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. That's an increase from the $4,500 for a Renaissance. Number 12, in accordance with 3.4.6, for the 25-26 school year, any instructional unit employee assigned to substitute duty during their planning, choosing to be compensated, shall be paid at the rate of E00 of the instructional salary schedule P. I think we've had this capped at $20. So this is a proposal to match step EOO on the instructional salary P. And then number 13, the board agrees to pay the full cost of an employee-only health insurance premium for a designated health plan offered by the board for instructional employees in accordance with section 13.2.1. And number 14, the board will pay the cost of fingerprint monitoring fees for instructional unit employees in accordance with section 13.11. The last page, there's just the eligible job codes for the ESC instructional supplement for this school year. And now we will get into the salary schedules. Here you go, collated. And while you're doing that, I wanted to just kind of point out, in our proposal for the ESC supplement, we did include the gifted teachers, and those folks came forward and wanted to share some rationale for why. The elementary gifted teachers serve under the ESC umbrella, and they carry that significant compliance and instructional responsibilities without the ESC specialist payment. They facilitate dozens of eligibility meetings, educational reviews, and transition plans, including mandatory end-of-year reviews for all fifth graders. And in addition to being core content teachers, they also serve on the child study teams and manage a heavy paperwork and parent communication load. So recognizing their role with the ESC supplement would honor their dual compliance and instructional demands and support retention of a small but critical group. So I just wanted to give some rationale on why those job codes would be included in the ESC supplement. All right, so I will walk you through the salary schedules and we'll get to the cost analysis. So the way these are laid out is in the gray is kind of the current, the 24-25 current, what it was for last year with our salary schedules, and then the count of employees, and then what that current cost is. We base this, this is schedule E and P, which is our 10-month. And this data was pulled in middle or end of June. And it's calculated based on about 11,847 employees. So if all of these employees here on their current rate of pay were moved one step, we calculated the schedule E and P at $11.6 million, $11,692,781, sorry. So, and that includes a benefit factor of 21.69, which is the factor we use to calculate salaries. So our proposal for 25-26 is to raise starting pay from 48,001 to 48,501. So that would be adding a $500 to starting pay. For all steps E1 through E25, our proposal is to add $1,500 to base salaries. So this creates a little bit of step separation between EOO and EO1. It does maintain still some of those smaller steps for EO2 to EO8. And you know, our goal has been to try to create more separation there. But this was kind of our first step. And, you know, I say this a lot, and I think we all understand that when the legislature imposed minimum salary requirements, it created compression that was all done so swiftly without any compensation or any funding for our veterans. And this has created damage that we've had to deal with for many years to try to correct these scales. So while we're not there, we believe this proposal is a step in the right direction. Then from EO9 to E25, the separation of step remains 1,335. This proposal also includes, the breakdown here includes the one-time $1,500 supplement. And then there's a column that's kind of bold-faced there with a box around it for the 25-26 total employee raise with the step. So that's their step, the increase of their base pay, and the $1,500 supplement. So our calculation for instructional scheduled E and P, and we know there's like a $1 difference. We didn't go into the weeds of trying to separate those two scales, but we calculated at the $1 higher. So the total with benefits, and this is the cost of the step with the increase for scheduled EMP, the cost would be $33,146,668. As we proposed in the language, there's a $3,000 longevity for the 1,787 employees, and we calculated that at $5.3 million, and the one-time step for this group of employees at $17.7 million. We'll go on to the next salary schedule, which is G and Q, which are 12-month employees. Same thing here. This has a little more detail where we've broken out the rate difference from the 10-month to the 12-month. I think it should be noted, and we've talked about this the last 2 years that I've been negotiating here, that the current hourly rate for our 12-month employees is significantly lower than our 12-month employees. And while they work more days and they earn a higher total overall salary for the year, their hourly rate is at the least $2.75 less, up to the max for our veterans, $4.72. And you know, they're doing the same work, they're doing it for more days, but they're earning less hourly. So we calculated this off of 244 employees, where they are currently, what that cost is, and if they were to move one step, the cost of one step only, we came to $273,992. So our proposal here is to add a little more to their hourly rate to close the gap between the difference, their hourly rate difference between the 198 and this 12-month schedule. So you can see adding what the total amount added to the base pay there in that first column next to the years of experience in green, and what is added to the hourly rate, which gives you a new proposed hourly rate. And you can see what this has done is it's made a little bit of a gain in the difference in the hourly rate. So instead of having a $2.75 difference between their hourly rate at step EOO, the difference reduces to $2.48. So all base salaries increase, employees move with their step, and they earn a one-time supplement, which gives you kind of the total that they would get there in that boxed out column. Our total cost for the step plus the increase to base pay for the 12-month employees comes to $996,456, and that's including benefits. The longevity at $3,000 for 72 employees, we calculated $216,000, and the one-time $1,500 payment to those 244 employees comes to $366,000. We go on next into our student services, and I'll try to move through these a little quickly, at least with the rationale, what we've done here. So again, on the left side, you've got the gray. This is our master's degree, 198 day. This is for about 185 employees, what it costs currently and what the step would cost at $183,375. In this particular, and all the gray boxes for this last year, 24-25, we have been trying to address our employees on steps 20 through 25. This scale is a little unique in that there are strange hourly rate difference ranges from step 0 to 25. And when we did the work to move our employees, we've been trying to address those top 5 steps because the hourly rate difference for steps 0 through 19 have been, you know, commensurate with the work that these employees do. But for some reasons, with just past work on these schedules, steps 20 through 25, we've had to pay them an additional $1,000 base supplement to kind of give them a little more equity in the difference in their hourly rate. So our proposal for 25-26 is to actually not only raise base pay for the total salary scale, but we've actually included that $1,000 into the base pay for steps 20 through 25. So that was actually removed from our compensation proposal as a one-time payment, but included in the salary schedule because we've been doing it the last 2 years to supplement that. So again, we've got our new hourly rate. And then the gray boxes there and all the green over here for our 25-26 kind of shows the difference in the 198 instructional hourly with the $2,000 masters, because that helps us kind of calculate the difference between the base pay of a 198 instructional employee that's getting our proposed $2,000 master supplement, what that hourly rate would be, and the hourly rate difference from those scales. So we're trying to get it more consistent, and you can see that it ranges from $1.86 up to the middle of the scale at $4 and almost $5, $4.90 for step 8, and then it goes back down. So again, this shows the proposed base rate, what the employee would get with the base increase to their salary, plus the step, a one-time supplement of $1,500, and what those raises would be with a new cost. So the total step with the base pay increase with benefits would come to $598,946 for our employees on the 198-day master's degree scale. And as far as longevity and the supplement, it's all in the final page, so it's just not on that document. The next is our doctorate degree. We've got one employee on our 198 doctorate degree, at least at the time we pulled this. So we addressed this scale. Same thing, increasing base pay with the step. So if we did a step just for this employee, it would be $1,000.73. With our proposal of step plus increases the base pay, the cost of this scale would be $2,899. That's step and base pay and benefits. Then we get to our student services master's degree for 205 days. All the same rationale here. Step movement with base pay increases, with addressing the $1,000 added into the steps 20 through 25. And with step movement, base pay increases, the total with benefits would be $2,055,711. Additional, they would also, those 92 employees getting the $3,000 longevity and the one-time $1,500 payment. Next, we have our student services that are on the specialist degree 205-day scale. That's 132 employees, all the same rationale, increases the base pay, addressing steps 20 through 25 with their step and one-time supplement. So the cost of the district for the step and base pay increases on this scale would be $446,813. Then we have our doctorate 205-day, 42 employees on this scale, all the same rationale. Total cost of the district of base pay plus the step with benefits, $144,747. Then we get to our student services master's degree at 253 days. All the same rationale for the 13 employees on this pay scale. Step plus increases the base pay would cost $56,000. I don't think that's right, actually. No, is it? Yeah, $56,687. And then last but not least, we have our instructional A and B scales. No changes here. There are no proposed changes to the actual scale. What you've got here is the scattergram of the 15 employees. Those 15 employees with one step would cost $8,063. And the green is just showing what those raises would be, including longevity. So no changes to those scales as proposed earlier. So lastly, we have our cost breakdown and analysis. Okay, so the top half of this document, we have instructional E&P scales, instructional G and Q scales, instructional A and B scales, our ROTC, and student services scales. And I want to point out ROTC new costs. So the base pay increases to all of the scales with the step would give an employee a base raise of about 4%. With the $1,500 brings it up to closer to 7 or 8%. So that's the rationale for the ROTC. Just doing, we do this every year. Whatever we give to the rest of the instructional, they get a commensurate increase on our side, but we know that they get some more pay through ROTC. And then our student services, and we've tried to break it down about how many employees are on each of those different groups. With the step and the increases to base pay with benefits, the grand total of the proposed step increases and increases of salary scales are $37,808,232. And I just wanted to show our cost estimate with benefits of the step alone came to $13,147,628. Hopefully that's close to what you guys came to. We'll see. Now we have a whole breakdown of all these extra things. And I'll start with all the ones that were unknown. We were unable to kind of come up with a cost analysis. We are addressing the T-payroll inclusion of school psychologists, the extended year and extended learning program increase to advanced degree supplements, the increase in the national board supplement. I didn't know at the time that's about how many people we have, so that could be calculated now that we know we have about, I think David said 200 or 110 or so. And then the new national board supplements that are referenced there in the contract, yearbook supplement to include all of our elementary, the bilingual interpretation translation service supplement, and the ESE contact for team leader supplement. Those are all that we were unable to put a name to or a price to just because without knowing employee numbers there. So the one-time $1,500 payment to approximately 13,253 employees, we estimate at $19,879,500. The increase of the ESE retention supplement for $3,000 for approximately 450 4,570 employees. So that's all the employees we've typically included, plus the inclusion of our gifted. That comes out to 13,710,000. The ESE center supplement, if we were to cost that out at $5,000 for approximately 109 employees, that came to $545,000. $3,000 longevity payment, and this is approximately 2,035 employees at the top of all salary schedules, came to $7,429,175. The $2,500 CCCs for our SLPs, approximately 200 employees, for $500,000. The $5,000 school psychologist critical shortage payment for approximately 119 employees, $595,000. And the 1,000 student services licensure payment for approximately 250 employees at $304,225. So our added one-time payment costs come to $42,962,900. So our total package, that's step, base pay salary, and all the estimated supplements and all the payments, comes to a grand total of $80,771,132. And as Rob pointed out, it's robust. It's going. All of these things were intentional and trying to address the work of a lot of incredible employees that have done good work for our district. So we do believe that there's a lot of room to work within and negotiate. So those are our cost analysis. Any questions? Anything I missed, Mr. President?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
All right, so we'll take that information back.
Okay.
Any questions from anybody on our side?
And as I shared, I guess just in closing, I guess we're going to caucus, I assume.
We did have a couple of language items.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So before we move to that, I just want to say that, now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I will share with you our Excel sheet so you can see everything we're working with. And I just wanted to comment too. I know that when you all did the budget presentation, I think the impression that we got and the understanding just with some of the challenges of, the calculations and what the state has done with a minimal increase of base student allocation and some issues with, funding that was expected and maybe coming out of calculations. The impression that we got is that while it will be a difficult year, there are some unknowns and we will be okay, right? I don't think there's a feeling of we're in a crisis, where the district's gonna, be in a bankrupt situation. We won't talk about the fund balance right now either, but I do want to say that, when we looked at the conference report for 24-25, the state was estimating, again, this is overall with, everyone, charters and everybody coming into Hillsborough, that was 239,843 students. But then the third calculation for that same year, we were at 237,316. And the district, is doing fine. And we know that the conference report for 25-26 has us at 237,811. So there's a difference there. And we know these are all estimates and things that will kind of play out. It hasn't been clear to us what the estimated loss or gain of students. And we know typically with a base student allocation increase, even if there is a slight loss of students, when the base student allocation increases, the district is still bringing in money, although we know that it was a less than 1% increase for the base student allocation this year. And then to kind of speak to what Rob was talking about earlier with what's budgeted and versus what is spent. In 23-24, when we were negotiating, we looked at what was budgeted just for instructional salaries alone. This does not include benefits. The district budgeted $707.9 million for instructional salaries. And then the AFR reported that we only spent $697.3 million. So again, to Rob's point, over budgeting, but coming in under budget. So in that 23-24 school year, when we actually paid out $697.3 million, for this past school year, 24-25, we budgeted $852.3 million. That's $154.9 million more than what we spent the year prior. So that is where we're seeing, to Rob's point, that we're seeing that, there's money that has been put into the budget. And my understanding is when we budget, we're putting in money there that can be spent, right? That is available, it's recurring funds. And so, can't help but mention, when our fund balance is increasing, that's where we're seeing it, that we see recurring funds that are budgeted for and not spent. Even if we compare what was budgeted for 24-25 to what was budgeted for 23-24, just in the budget alone, it was $144.3 million more in instructional salaries alone, which does include a number of our ESP employees. And I do want to point out too, when we were doing this work, the total number of employees that we calculated for this year, 13,253 employees. And when we bargained last year, the number we were operating off of was 13,338. So that indicates either roughly the same, it's tough in the summer. We do see attrition, so we see people leaving and we know that will adjust, but the number of vacancies has definitely improved since I first got here, and that's a testament to what's going on in HR. And I truly believe the work that we've done at this table over the last 2 years prior to get our negotiations settled before the holidays, and then last year getting it done before the school year. I've spoken to the school board about this, that I truly believe the comparison of those 2 years, recruitment, we see net positive. But we're not seeing, I guess this is all to say that our proposal, while it's robust, is we can do more to get more employees. So I just wanted to point out some of our rationale there, that we do believe that the proposal is reasonable and within the scope of what can be spent, that it's not outside of what's already in the budget. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
We will be taking that back and costing it out. We did bring a couple of items today.
Okay.
Over to you. Yeah, Okay, so you brought up 14.3, and
Yes.
we are proposing language as well to that. So for terminal pay, I'll just read the beginning part and then what we're adding to it. So in
Okay.
order to encourage and reward teachers who exercise particular care in the maintenance of their personal health and job attendance, the board will provide terminal pay to teachers upon termination of employment at retirement or to their beneficiaries if service is terminated by death. All terminal pay shall be paid in the month following retirement, but not more than 2 pay cycles following the employee's last duty check. The only exception to this procedure will be December retirees. December retirees may request that terminal pay be paid in the month of December for tax purposes. To allow sufficient processing time for December payment, a written request shall be given to the payroll department no later than December 1st. Terminal pay shall be, and then it breaks it down based off of the length of service. The part that we're adding there, and this is similar to what was proposed as well for the ESP language, is that if the employee is enrolled in the FRS investment plan and terminates from the district no younger than 59.5 with at least 6 years of FRS service, or has 30 years of FRS service at any age, the employee is deemed to meet the definition of retirement to be entitled to the same terminal pay benefits as an FRS pension plan retiree. All right, and then the next language that we're proposing is actually something new. This came up in our last meeting. We talked a little bit about the importance of FTE collection as it relates to how we are funded and ultimately what we can provide for employees related to compensation. So this would be proposed under 3.27, student attendance reporting. We provided here a purpose and rationale that these attendance practices are critical for student safety. Prompt and accurate attendance records support the early identification of potentially missing or at-risk students. Instructional momentum, monitoring attendance by period helps maintain academic engagement and allows for timely intervention in cases of chronic absenteeism or class skipping. Compliance and accountability, in order to ensure timely reporting and to maximize all FTE funding related to student attendance, accurate daily attendance records must be maintained. Failure to comply with attendance taking responsibilities may result in administrative follow-up, and if persistent, may be addressed through the district's progressive discipline procedures in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement. 3.27.1, teacher expectations for student attendance reporting. to ensure the safety and well-being of all students, promote regular student attendance, and maintain instructional continuity and momentum. All certified teaching staff are required to adhere to the following attendance protocols in accordance with Florida statutes governing attendance records and reporting, Florida statute 1003.23. 3.27.2, daily student attendance reporting. Teachers shall report student attendance at the beginning of each instructional day in accordance with the district policy and state regulations. This record shall be submitted through the district's designated attendance management system by the time established by the school's administration each school day. 3.27.3, period by period attendance reporting. For schools operating on a period-based schedule, teachers shall take and submit attendance for each class period. Attendance must be reported within the first 15 minutes of each period to ensure timely identification of student absences. And 3.27.4, training and support. The district and/or school administrative staff shall provide training and ongoing support to ensure all teachers are proficient in using the attendance system and understand the importance of accurate and timely attendance reporting.
Okay. So I just want to be clear. So all of this, the purpose and the rationale would all be included in the language. Okay. I think some things that would help us, just some requests for information. The attendance protocols, in 3.27.1, it says to ensure safety, promote all the things. All certified teaching staff are required to adhere to the following attendance protocols, and then the protocols are 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Okay. So then when we get into 3.27.2, the first sentence, teachers shall report student attendance at the beginning of each instructional day in accordance with district policy and state regulations. Can we see what those are? I think that would be helpful. Like, what is our district policy? Because when we say something like this, now that district policy becomes part of contract, and then those policies are not brought to this table to negotiate. State regulations, I understand, you know, they are what they are, and they can, if they're laws, then they can trump, but I'd like to know what those regulations are if they are based on statute. And maybe it is everything in 1003.23. So what are the policies and state regulations? When we get into the second sentence of 3.27.2, this record shall be submitted through the district's designated attendance management system. What is that currently? Focus?
That would be focus, yeah.
Focus. And then by the time established by the school's administration each school day, when and how would employees know what that is? If each school's administration is establishing it, when and how would they know?
So typically at a school site, the administration establishes with the faculty what time attendance has to be submitted. We didn't designate a specific time there because of how school started different hours, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it would just be, how does each individual school communicate, like when and how, like, is there a time by when they would know that? You know, is it before school starts? Is it pre-planning? And is this something that should be done through the school steering committee so that everybody is on the same page? Or is it truly just a unilateral, this is what it is?
So the attendance monitoring office assists with that, of having usually a cutoff time of when that information is reported, but we could seek to get a little bit more clarity around that.
Yeah, okay. I don't think I had any other questions for any of the other parts unless nobody else did. So I think those would be helpful, you know, the board policy and the state regs, and then you can come with that information about the attendance monitoring office, you called it? Monitoring office or department?
I'm calling it that, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, there's a designated group that
Yeah.
helps assist with that and tracking of it.
Yeah, because I totally understand every school has a different start time. So what is that time? It can't be just all elementary schools or all, you know, all schools are this time. But I do think that would be the only concern just right off the bat of just making sure everyone knows what that is, when it is, how it's done, so that nobody's caught. Oh, I've been doing it this way for the first few weeks and then it changes and all that good stuff. And I don't know if that's happening. I'm just thinking out loud.
And usually there is that designated time because of then how the
Yes.
communication goes out
Yeah.
to the families about this.
Yeah, understood.
I have questions. You brought this item with data, I'm assuming that's driving it. Can you share said data that shows the accuracy or the lack thereof around the attendance procedures that we have in place? I guess that's the first thing I would ask.
Yeah,
That's it. I think.
yeah,
And I know that a lot of the attendance is attached to funding.
yes.
And I know that that's something we want to help you, I think we all agree, we want to get that cleaned up. So whatever data points that you're using that shows the accuracy would be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, is it kind of consistent across the board? Is there a trend in
Mhm.
certain, all that stuff? Doesn't have to be answered now once you have it, but that would be helpful. Okay, cool. Okay. And I guess what we'll do for 14.3.1 is we'll look at it because I think where we're at is we're in agreement on 2 points of that, but not on the third. So, yeah, and I think we'll have to look at that. Hopefully you will too. All right. So what would you like to do? I think I lost my agenda here. So there's a lot. So we're at about 2:30. Is this something that you all want to caucus and come back today, or do you want to caucus and talk and then come back and schedule other dates, or?
Caucus, we'll come back and talk about other dates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then,
And
okay.
then, did we, for letter D, we already got the location, right? Did
Yes,
say
we do.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, so we've got the
ISD?
ISD building, it won't be in 102.
Okay. And then I know Kelly, you and I talked about just kind of these placeholder for these other committees, like the ESP Schools Community Professional Learning Committee, kind of a meeting for a reclassification of some ESP positions. And I think when we look at the vastness of supplements that we keep working on each year, I think we talk about this each year that we need to get our supplement committee going. Then we had negotiations and then we put it off. So I just have this as a placeholder for us to like immediately convene that committee for the 26-27 school year, because that committee has some parameters in the contract that they do work, come up with recommendations prior to negotiations. So those are just placeholders. And then I know we have some outstanding information requests for supplemental pay, instructional and ESP that would help us cost out that advanced degree. We had requests of bereavement leave information. We're probably still working on the comp time payout for this last school year, the extended leave information for the ESPs. You all did provide your cost of ESP step, so that would be helpful if you let us know what your amount is for the instructional step. And then just these other 2 placeholders, we know those are not completed yet for the AFRM budgets.
And we are working on those information
Yes.
requests. I've got actually one of them ready to get.
Oh, nice. Okay, and I will make sure I share with you the form document that was in our proposal and everything today that's in Word and everything. I'll share that with you.
Did I miss something from this about gifted was on this
Yes. So,
elementary?
yeah, so,
We're at the.
I wrote the post-it note here, but.
yes, so what we
you
did,
looked at that code?
if you look at number 7 on the first page,
Oh.
ESP instructional employees see attached job codes, which are the
Oh,
attachment, and then gifted
thank you.
teachers.
I
We're
kept
open-
looking
yeah.
here, like.
And
where
we
are
can
they?
put those 3 job codes on there.
No, that's fine. That.
Since there were
Thank
only 3, I
I
just
was
put them
like,
there rather than on the list.
I was.
Yeah.
Everybody else might understand. I was
No, it's a good
confused.
question. It's a good
I
question.
think we're passing.
My post-it note reminded me.
Yeah. All right, so it's 2:39. Do you want to set a time to come back?
We'll say 3:15.
3:15, I think that'd be enough time.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll say 3:15. If you need an extension, just
Okay.
let us know. So we'll
Okay.
see you back at 3. Yeah, just so folks. Yeah. So we know
Bury your
that,
numbers.
we know that there's a lot and there's some numbers that need to be run and all that stuff. So this is a good time to come back and just set our next session. We know we've got the ESP group next week. We've actually already sent in our information to get those folks released for that 9 a.m. start time at ISC. So we'll pull up calendar. All right. So we got the 23rd for the ESP. Are you guys looking at the following week then to come back for this group?
Yes, we are. We're looking at possibly Wednesday, July 30th in the afternoon.
That should work. Mhm. Yeah,
Is your building open?
it is, I believe, no?
I don't know, I was.
Oh, yeah.
Calendar. So,
Yeah, we know we had the new teacher market on the 23rd. 24.
oh, it's, I don't see any. For
When is actually the teacher market?
the actual one,
Mhm.
Saturday, August.
August 9th?
9th and
Yeah.
8th, we need this room.
Okay. Cause I know on the 23rd, it's a sorting day.
Yeah, we just,
Okay,
all that.
okay, so the 30th is good, yeah.
Yeah, 30th.
30th should be good.
30 is good. Okay. At 1 o'clock?
That should work. So Wednesday, July 30th at 1 o'clock here.
Mhm.
Okay. And I sent you over all of our documents. So you have that. If there's anything extra that you need, let us know. And any of the information that you come up with, let us know. And
We'll do your information requests as well.
yeah,
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
We're gonna just finish it down and do items.